Hello again, welcome back inside the Tier 4 studio here in Morgantown, West Virginia. For the Charleston Daily Mail, I am Mike Casazza. You have joined me once more for the Wednesday walkthrough. This is our weekly video blog that previews the upcoming West Virginia football game. And this weekend we have a road trip all the way out in Lubbock, Texas, noon Eastern Time at Jones AT&T Stadium. If you can't get there, you can watch it on Fox Sports 1. West Virginia against Texas Tech against fearless Texas Tech in the third conference game for both teams this season. Seems like a pretty important occasion for both sides. Frankly, sides that look like they're going in opposite directions right now. Let's begin with Texas Tech. This is not the team that we saw last year when they came into Morgantown 6-0, dominated the second half, won 37-27, walked out 7-0, and honestly looked like, not only one of the IT programs in the Big 12, but maybe the country. They had the hot coaching commodity on their side. It was Cliff Kingsbury, great player who remained popular in the community from the time he played to the time he returned to his alma mater last season. This was a big get for the program. It turned everything around. Remember, Tommy Tuberville left Texas Tech literally in the middle of a dinner with a recruit so he can go to Cincinnati. You get Kingsbury, who parlayed his success during that one great season with Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M to that job. Everything looked good. But after that game in Morgantown, they lost 5 in a row. Did seem to salvage their season, turn things around, maybe even get some clarity about the quarterback situation by winning the bowl game against Arizona State. Davis Webb was the trigger man that day. Looked like the guy they would follow for the rest of his time on campus. That led to some side effects, which has begun some of the ugly off-the-field stuff you've seen at Texas Tech. Michael Brewer left. He had the option available as a graduate. He's at Virginia Tech playing pretty well. Also, Baker Mayfield left. He played a lot for Texas Tech last season and did very well. Won some awards in the Big 12, if you didn't know. And he wanted to go to Oklahoma. Texas Tech sought to do all they could to block that transfer. It finally went through. But Mayfield was jerked around for so long, he had to walk on at Oklahoma, and just recently discovered he will not be immediately eligible to play this season. He'll have to sit out, come back next season. That contentious issue back and forth between Mayfield and Texas Tech, and specifically Mayfield's family and Kingsbury, it really peaked when just last week Mayfield's father called Cliff Kingsbury a scoundrel, which is wonderful. You have a lot of these family coaching staff or family university snits in college athletics. You need something special like that to distinguish it, so bravo to Mr. Mayfield. But that is not, unfortunately, the only off-the-field issue, and this other one actually bled onto the field. Texas Tech's defense is a mess. We're talking 100-plus in major categories, including scoring defense, total defense, rushing defense. Not a good place to be, but maybe because they had a bad guy running the show. Matt Wallerstadt was fired 3 games ago because he showed up to the team facility under the influence of an unknown substance. That's a bad look. So they can him, and they bring in a guy who, interestingly enough, expands Dana Holgerson's coaching tree. Mike Smith, if you remember the name, he was on Dana's staff here at West Virginia long enough to, I would say, to order a cup of coffee, not to have the cup of coffee. Was on the Jets staff. Dana hired him. They've been together at Texas Tech previously, and then he went back to the Jets. No one really knows what happened there, but hey, he's running the Texas Tech defense now. West Virginia's offense, you know what it's going to want to do. Pass to set up the run, run to set up the pass, play that cat and mouse game, but you like to have an idea what the other side is doing. Truth be told, West Virginia guessing a little bit. Smith only has 2 games on tape and did not go very well last week against Kansas State, and really they got bombed by Oklahoma State in Stillwater 2 weeks ago. So you've had mixed results. 2 different teams are. Oklahoma State does not do it like Kansas State does. You probably study a little bit more of the Oklahoma State game, except that was Smith's first game. Maybe he changed some things, trial and error. He got the good results, the bad results, adapted it for Kansas State. So it's kind of a mixed bag for what the Mountaineers expect to see. What they have found, though, is that he's going to try to do more with less, narrow the package. If it's not as broad, you can't screw up as many things. So find the players that work, and just let them do things, get positive results. Build that one on top of the other till you have a much better sense of confidence about what you're doing. The defense does have players, though. Young at corner, not really experienced at safety, just 2 interceptions, has been troubled by the pass, but again, their rush defense is really bad. They have players, though. Brandon Jackson, not a bad defensive end, made some plays last year. Outside linebacker, Peters is a pretty good rush guy. He's made some plays this year, has 4 sacks. The linebackers, Micah Alway, Sam McGuavin, and Kenny Williams, who was the leading rusher last season, obviously, are talented players. It just hasn't worked, whether it's been scheme, effort, execution, who knows. They give up a lot of rushing yards. They're 114 of the country. There's only 125. They average about 7 plays a game of 10 yards or more on the ground. West Virginia is peaking in that direction. They're more confident in their running game. It looks like they figured out the rotation, how and when to identify and feed the hot hand. But Russell Shell is coming along nicely. He's getting more carries. He's producing more. Thought he finished the last game strong. And really, that's the only game where he's played all 4 quarters, if you think about it. It's important because he is seemingly 1 second, 1 step, 1 shake away from that big run. And not only that, but stringing together the big runs. If he can do that, you got to bring the safeties down and the corners down. I don't think Texas Tech is going to want to do that. I think they're going to want to give help against Alford and White, and then Trickett can pass around there. Wouldn't be a Tier 4 production without some special teams conversation. They have good guys. Batts is an okay punt returner. He's a receiver, a true freshman. Does not play a lot of receiver, but he's a good return man guy. You got to watch out for him. And Jakeem Grant is one of the fastest guys in the Big 12. He's very effective, let's just say dangerous, on kickoff returns. West Virginia has to get better, not just because it's Texas Tech, but because West Virginia has to get better. This is not a game where it can go on the road and afford to give away 7 points, 10 points, 14 points. Possessions won't matter here. And if you start giving away possessions on bad special teams play because you're in bad position or because you're turning it over, it can become decisive there. Let's also talk about the wind. It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing. I asked a question about it in the press conference for a story in a certain direction, and now everybody's talking about the wind. I know the wind is mobile. It can go anywhere. I know it was windy against Kansas at Mountaineer Field the other night. Not my point. The point is the wind is a thing, a capital T thing. When you talked about Big 12 road games of West Virginia, and it was a thing, capital T thing, in Lubbock 2 years ago. It affected the game. Dana Holgorsen said it didn't. I disagree, especially when he says that it got in Geno Smith's head and it became kind of a snowball effect. That seems to me like it had an effect. Does it change the way you play and call plays? Certainly. Will it Saturday? Have no idea. The point is the players have to be prepared. There has to be a plan to when to throw into it, when to throw against it. It did not work out that way in Kansas last season. That game went sideways and the wind was blowing, well, all over the place. Sideways, left, right. It was an issue there. Didn't work out. You like to think if they go there better armed because this is a more mature, more advanced, more complete team. Most importantly, there's a plan B here, and that's where it gets back to the running game. If West Virginia runs this game, it can control field position by extending drives and not punting it back, or if it can control time of possession by just moving along and having good drives on top of good drives, it wears down that defense. It takes some of the gas out of the engine. That is the fan base that will power the team in this game. Again, the matchups do seem to tilt toward West Virginia, but a windy day, who knows, an early kickoff, a road game, stranger things have happened, including 2 years ago in Lubbock. That's all for now. Thank you for joining me once more for the Charleston Daily Mail. I'm Mike Casazza. I'll see you next time.